Hey guys, today we are making 5 more summer sheet pan dinners. We will be making my sheet pan hot honey chicken and zucchini, sheet pan meatball steak frites, sheet pan buttery cracker crusted fish, sheet pan Italian sub sandwiches, and sheet pan cheeseburgers and fries. So let's go get started. So yesterday was my son's 3rd birthday party. It was so much fun. We had it at a farm, but we are just exhausted, as you are after hosting any sort of, party or event. So we're having a lazy Sunday. I'm staying in my comfies and we're just gonna do something quick, easy, super comforting, but also healthier than caving in and getting takeout. We're gonna make my sheet pan hot honey chicken with zucchini. So I'm just starting off here by cutting 2 medium zucchinis into half moons. And we just want to keep them to about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thick. If you want them a little bit crunchier, then I would recommend slicing them a little bit thicker. So now I have about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of chicken breast that I am slicing into 1-inch pieces. So now let's move on to our sauce. So in my mason jar here, I have 1/2 cup of honey. You can use store-bought hot honey, but because I was feeding this to my 3-year-old, I didn't want it to be too spicy. So I'm adding in a little bit of crushed red pepper on my own to control the heat. But to that honey, I'm adding in 3 cloves of minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1/2 teaspoon of salt and pepper, some paprika, there's that crushed red pepper, and about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And we just want to mix that. And then we're going to pour half of it over the chicken and reserve the rest for later. I personally like to marinate the chicken for about 1 hour before cooking, but you can skip that step and just move right on to cooking. So I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and I'm putting the zucchini on half of the sheet pan, drizzling it with about 1 tablespoon of oil and some salt and pepper. And then I'm going to place the chicken on the other side of the pan. So we just want to bake this for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to take the pan out of the oven and brush the remaining marinade on the chicken and bake an additional 5 to 10 minutes or until it's nice and sticky and the chicken and zucchini are cooked through. Now I like to serve rice on the side. You can keep it easy and do one of the microwave pouches or do minute rice. But it's also delicious with just the chicken and zucchini. Okay, so today we are going to make my sheet pan meatball steak frites. It's just kind of a fun, family-friendly, budget-friendly twist on the classic French dish. So let's get started. So I'm starting out by taking 3 large russet potatoes that I cleaned and peeled, and we're just going to cut those into thin fries, about 1/4 inch thick or so. And we want to place them in a bowl of cold water and let them soak for about 30 minutes, and that is going to release a lot of the starch off of the potatoes and help them crisp up better. So then I'm going to drain the potatoes and pat them dry. My oven is preheated to 375 degrees, and I have the fries on my sheet pan here, and I'm just drizzling them with some olive oil. And then I'm going to season them with salt, pepper, and garlic powder. And we're just going to bake those for about 20 minutes and then work on the meatballs. So in a large bowl, I have 1.5 pounds of ground beef, and to that I am adding in 2 eggs, 1 cup of breadcrumbs, 1/4 cup of milk, 3 cloves of minced garlic, and then some dried thyme, dried rosemary, salt and pepper, as well as about a tablespoon of freshly chopped parsley. We're just going to mix that together and form these into meatballs about the size of golf balls. But you can make them as small or as large as you would like. You just have to adjust the cooking time accordingly. So I'm going to push the fries to one side of the sheet pan and then place the meatballs on the other side. And we're going to crank the oven up to 425 degrees and bake this for an additional 30 minutes, or until the meatballs are 165 degrees internally. So while those bake, we're going to make our sauce. So I'm taking a little shortcut with this. I have 1 package of beef gravy mix, and I'm going to combine that in my saucepan with 1/2 cup of water and 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And we just want to bring this to a simmer for about a minute or until it's thickened. And it will tell you on the package directions. And then I'm just adding in about a tablespoon of black pepper that I freshly ground and some garlic powder. And then we are just going to serve that on the side of our meatballs and fries for dipping. You can also put some on top of the meatballs, like I did, just for presentation purposes, along with some fresh parsley. This dinner was a huge hit. Again, something that my toddler actually ate because he loves gravy. If you give him gravy on the side of anything, he will eat it. So it worked out really well, and it's just a more budget-friendly version of steak frites. So now moving on to my sheet pan buttery cracker crusted fish. I have 2 tablespoons of melted butter in a bowl, and I'm adding in about 1 cup of crushed butter crackers or Ritz crackers, and 1/4 cup of these fried onions, like the ones you use on green bean casserole for Thanksgiving. And we're just going to combine that and set it aside. And then in a separate bowl, I have 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and to that I am adding in a teaspoon of lemon zest, 1/2 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a tablespoon of oil. And we're just going to mix that and again set it aside. So now here I have about a head of broccoli cut up into florets, some lemon slices, and some fresh dill. So I'm going to add my broccoli to one side of a sheet pan, and then I have 3 to 4 tilapia fillets. You can also use cod or halibut for this. Any nice firm white fish will do. And we're just going to spread that mustard combo all over the fish, and then I'm going to divide the cracker crumbs on top of the fish and just press lightly to adhere. And my oven is preheated to 425 degrees, and we're just going to bake this for about 10 to 15 minutes or until the broccoli is cooked and the fish is nice and golden brown and cooked through. So while we wait on that, we're going to make our lemon dill sauce. So I have about 1/4 cup of sour cream, and to that I'm going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of lemon juice, a tablespoon of fresh dill, and then some garlic powder, salt and pepper. We just want to mix that and set it aside until the fish is done, but this is delicious on the fish, dipping the fish in it and the broccoli. It's really light and fresh and just really complements everything. So then I also like to serve the fish with some fresh lemon wedges to squeeze on top. And again, this is great as is, but you could, of course, make some pasta or rice or potatoes on the side. Today we are going to make my sheet pan Italian sub sandwiches. So I have my sheet pan lined with foil, and I have 2 tablespoons of butter melted, and I'm brushing half of that onto the sheet pan. And then I have 6 slices of bread. You can use your favorite sliced bread, but I like to try and find one that's a little bit thicker. And we're just going to lay those right on top of the butter. Then I have some sliced mozzarella cheese, ham, and you want to try and get this all sliced thin. Some fresh baby spinach that I just chopped up, salami, pepperoni, I use turkey pepperoni here, and some pepperoncini peppers that I patted dry from the jar and diced up. And then the last thing we're adding on here is some sliced provolone cheese. So all of the good stuff on an Italian combo. And I know there's no dressing, but you honestly will not miss it, I promise. Or if you really, really love Italian dressing, put it on the side for dipping. But we want these to get really crispy and not soggy. So I'm just going to top with the remaining bread and brush the tops of the bread with the remaining butter. And then I'm taking another sheet pan that I lined the bottom with foil, and we're going to put this on top of the sandwiches to weigh them down and keep them from falling apart and also getting them nice and crispy. So my oven is preheated to 400 degrees, and we're just going to bake them for about 10 minutes and then remove that sheet pan off the top and bake an additional 20 minutes. And then as soon as they come out of the oven, I'm sprinkling on some Parmesan cheese and chopped fresh parsley. These are so incredibly good. We love a nice Italian combo, but it's a great way to make a bunch of sandwiches for a crowd, and it's also a hot dinner instead of having a cold sandwich, which is nice for a change. It's like the perfect crossover of grilled cheese and Italian combo. And last but certainly not least is my sheet pan cheeseburgers and fries. This time I opted for sweet potato fries because over the course of these sheet pan dinners we've been doing a lot of fries, but it's something summery about it. So I have 2 large sweet potatoes that I cut into wedges, drizzled with oil and salt and pepper. And then on the other side of the sheet pan I have my burger patties. And I'm just seasoning them with salt and pepper, and I made an indent in the center of them with my thumb so that they don't get too plump in the center. And I'm also seasoning with a little bit of garlic powder. And then I'm just placing a tablespoon of butter on each of the burgers. My oven is preheated to 400 degrees, and we're just going to bake this for about 40 minutes, flipping the fries halfway in between. And then I'm adding some slices of cheese on top and just throwing it in the oven for another 3 minutes or so. And that's it. I know this recipe is super simple. I didn't even doctor up the burgers to show you, so I know it looks kind of plain, but this is just one of those hacks I had to share because especially in the summertime, it's a really nice, quick and easy way to not have to, go heat up the grill and stand over the burgers, or like on rainy days, if maybe you're doing a cookout and you get rained out and can't grill, they come out beautiful, super juicy, not too greasy. It's our new favorite way to make burgers. I really hope you guys enjoyed coming along with me to make 5 more summer sheet pan dinners. This will probably be it for the summer sheet pan series. We're going to be moving on to one of my favorites, slow cooker dinners for summer, coming up here really soon. But if you give any of these a try, please be sure to let me know down in the comments what you think. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and we will see you in the next one. Bye. Hey guys, today we are making my super quick and easy sheet pan sausage, peppers, and polenta. It all goes on one pan, cooks in about 30 minutes, and is so incredibly delicious. The polenta cakes kick this classic meal up a notch and makes it a special dish that is sure to impress and become a new favorite. Without further ado, let's go get started. So I have 2 bell peppers that I want to cut into strips, so I like to cut the top and bottom off of the pepper and then cut around the seeds in the center, and then that way you have flat sections that allow you to get nice even strips. And I am just going to continue doing that with the other pepper. And you can choose whatever color peppers you'd like. And then I have 1 medium onion here that I'm going to cut in half, and I am going to follow the grain of the onion like I'm showing you here so that you also get nice even strips of onion. And I'm going to throw those in the bowl with the bell peppers. Now to the bowl I am adding a good drizzle of olive oil, I would say about a tablespoon's worth. Now I kind of eyeball the spices here, but I'm adding about a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of parsley, a teaspoon of basil, and a teaspoon of oregano. And then I am also going to add about a half a teaspoon of salt and pepper. And then we are just going to mix that around and set it aside. So then I have this pound of the Heat and Eat ready-made polenta that I am going to cut into 8 even round pieces. And that's it. Super simple for these little polenta cakes, but they get really tender with a little bit of crispy on the outside. They are just so good. I have a sheet pan lined with parchment paper, and I am adding the polenta cakes to the pan with a little bit of olive oil on the bottom as well as the top. And then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of oregano on top, a sprinkle of garlic powder, and a pinch of salt, and that's just going to add some really nice flavor to these. Then to the middle of my pan, I'm adding 1 pound of sausage links. You can use any kind you'd like, vegan, chicken sausage, classic Italian sausage, whatever you and your family prefer. And then I'm just going to add the peppers and onions all around to the other side of the pan. And you just want to squeeze it in there. They will shrink down as they cook, so it's okay that they're a little crowded. And then we are going to bake this at 425 for 20 minutes, and then we are going to take it out of the oven, flip the polenta cakes and the sausage, and mix around the veggies. And then we are going to cook it for an additional 10 to 15 minutes, or until the sausage reaches 165 degrees internally. And the peppers and onions are nice and softened, and the polenta cakes are heated through and a little bit crispy. And that's it. We love to serve this with a little bit of marinara sauce, and it is absolutely perfect for a weeknight meal as well as a dinner party. This has become such a favorite in our household. It's in our weekly rotation. We just absolutely love it, and it's such a special meal. And I really hope you enjoyed coming along and making it with me, and if you did, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to see more fun videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye! Hey everyone! Today we are making my easy Big Mac sliders. These little beauties taste just like a Big Mac, but healthier because they are made at home. They are perfect for parties, watching a football game, or a quick and easy dinner. Will become a family favorite. If that sounds good to you, then let's go get started. So let's start out by making our Big Mac secret sauce. So in a bowl here, I have about 6 tablespoons of mayo, and then I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of ketchup, 2 tablespoons of mustard, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and 1 tablespoon of pickle juice. And we are just going to stir that to combine and set it aside. And then in a large bowl here, I have 1.5 pounds of lean ground beef. And to that, I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, and 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. And we just want to mix that to combine. And then I have a small sheet pan here lined with aluminum foil. And we just want to press this into a very thin patty about the same size shape as our dinner rolls. Or even just a little bit larger because the meat is going to shrink as it bakes. So I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and we are just going to bake this for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we're going to try and drain off as much of the grease as possible. So then I am going to cut my rolls in half all the way down the middle. You could use King's Hawaiian or something similar to that. And I'm just going to spread on some sauce onto the bun. And then I'm going to add on about 2 cups of shredded lettuce. And then we just want to use a spatula to transfer our meat patty onto the buns. And then I'm going to add on American cheese. I used about 8 slices here. A half a small onion that I finely diced, and about 1 cup of diced pickles. And then we're just going to add the top of the buns. And then I have 2 tablespoons of melted butter that I'm just going to brush all over the top of the rolls. And then 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds that I'm going to sprinkle on. And we just want to throw that back into the oven for about 3 to 5 minutes or until the cheese starts to melt. And then we're just going to cut these up and serve them. I really hope you enjoyed coming along with me and making my easy Big Mac sliders. These are a crowd pleaser. They're packed full of flavor and definitely a much healthier option. If you give these a try or just want to say hi, please be sure to leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching to the end, and we will see you in the next one. Bye! Hey guys, I don't know about you, but I love a good sheet pan dinner. Cooking everything on one pan at the same time means a quick weeknight dinner and a super easy cleanup. Today we are making my top 5 sheet pan dinners that I make all summer long, filled with gorgeous flavors and fresh vegetables that scream summertime. They're customizable and sure to please the whole family. We've got lots to cover, so let's go get started. Alrighty, so we are starting out with my barbecue chicken dinner, so I am making the barbecue rub for the chicken. I have 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of pepper. And we're just going to mix that together and set it aside. So now I have 3 to 4 chicken breasts, I would say about 2 pounds worth, and I'm just going to liberally sprinkle the seasoning onto the chicken. And if you have any of the seasoning left over, you can just store it, and it's great on so many different things. So I have all of the rest of the dish prepared here, all of our veggies, and everything is cut into about 1-inch pieces. So I have 12 small potatoes, either quartered or halved, 1 red bell pepper, 1 zucchini, a half a red onion, and then I have 2 ears of corn cut in half. So what we're going to do here is put all of the veggies but the corn onto the sheet pan around the chicken, and I am drizzling olive oil on that and sprinkling with salt and pepper. And we are just going to give that a good stir. And then for my corn, I am taking 2 pieces of foil and placing 2 pieces of corn in each piece of foil. And then I'm going to dot it with about a tablespoon of butter in each pouch here and sprinkle it with salt and pepper. And then we are going to wrap these up and nestle them somewhere into the sheet pan. We will make room. It's going to be tight, but we'll make room. So we are going to bake this at 425 degrees for about 15 minutes, and then we are going to take it out of the oven, and I'm going to use anywhere from a half a cup to 1 cup of barbecue sauce and just baste it onto the chicken, and then we are going to pop it back into the oven for another 10 to 15 minutes or until the chicken is 165 degrees Fahrenheit internally. And there we go, all of the veggies and potatoes are cooked perfectly, the corn is nice and steamed and already seasoned with butter and salt and pepper, and the chicken is just incredible. It tastes like it came right off the grill. So now we are moving on to my sheet pan shrimp boil. Say that 5 times fast. So in a bowl here I have 6 tablespoons of salted butter melted, and I am adding 3 cloves of garlic minced using my handy dandy garlic press here. I will link it down below. It is a game changer. And 1 tablespoon of Old Bay seasoning. And we're just going to stir that around. I also like to add just a little bit of extra salt and pepper, but that is totally optional. In 1 large bowl, I have 3 ears of corn cut into thirds and 1 pound of baby potatoes cut in half. And I am just going to take half of that butter mixture and pour it over the corn and potatoes and give it a good stir. And then I have a sheet pan lined with parchment paper, and I'm going to put the potatoes and corn onto the pan. And we are going to roast them at 425 degrees for 20 minutes, and then we will finish the rest of the dish while they're cooking. So I am just reusing the bowl here, save you some dishes, and I am adding 1 pound of shrimp peeled and deveined, and 12 ounces of smoked andouille sausage sliced into coins. And I'm adding the rest of the butter to that and giving it a good stir. So when the 20 minutes is up, I'm going to add the shrimp and andouille to the pan and cook that for an additional 10 to 12 minutes or until the shrimp is nice and pink. I like to serve mine with some nice lemon wedges right on the pan, a good sprinkle of fresh parsley, and this baby just goes right onto the table. Now we are moving on to my farmer's market gnocchi. I call it that because I use whatever kind of veggies we have left in the fridge or whatever looks good at the farmer's market, but typically I like to add 1 pint of cherry tomatoes halved. Now that is a must because they help make the sauce here. 2 to 3 ears of corn with the kernels cut off, a bunch of asparagus cut into 2-inch pieces, and 1 zucchini cut into 1-inch pieces, as well as a half a red onion cut into chunks. So I added all of the veggies to the sheet pan, lined with foil, and I am adding 20 ounces of frozen gnocchi that I thawed. And then I'm adding about 2.5 to 3 tablespoons of nice olive oil, salt and pepper, 4 cloves of garlic minced, 1 teaspoon of oregano. And we are just going to give that a good stir and put it in the oven at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for about 9 minutes. And then we are just going to spin the pan around and cook that for an additional 9 minutes. I'm sure you see my little sous chef's hand coming in and out trying to grab veggies. I love how much he still enjoys veggies. He's almost 2. He's still not picky. He loves eating pretty much whatever we give him. I know that won't last forever, but I do think it helps that he's always helping me at the kitchen counter here. And he gets to experiment and try new things. Alright, but anyway, so once those come out of the oven, we are going to drizzle on another 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil, as well as a half a cup of Parmesan cheese, and we're just going to give that a stir. And as I stir, I like to kind of break up the cherry tomatoes, and that's what really makes this beautiful sauce with the oil and cheese. And then to finish it off, I like to add some nice chopped basil, and you could also add some crushed red pepper if you like some heat. Okay, so on to the next. We are making Greek chicken meatballs with Greek lemon potatoes. So to start with the potatoes here, I have 3 large russet potatoes, about a pound, cut into wedges, and I am just drizzling them with 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, and a half a tablespoon of lemon zest. And then I am also adding a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of dried oregano, and a half a teaspoon of dried parsley. You could also use fresh parsley here, as well as a 1/4 teaspoon each of salt and pepper. And we're going to give that a good stir, and then I have a sheet pan lined with parchment paper, and we're just going to pour those right onto the parchment paper and bake them at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes, and while they're roasting, we're going to work on our meatballs. In a large bowl, I have 1 pound of ground chicken, and to that I am adding 1 egg. And for spices, I am adding a teaspoon each of garlic powder, onion powder, oregano, basil, dill, and parsley. And then I am also adding in a half a teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Then we are also adding in a half a cup of plain breadcrumbs and a half a cup of crumbled feta cheese. And we're just going to give those a stir. You don't want to overmix them or the meat will get tough. But I like to start with a spatula and kind of break the egg up, and then I'll go in with my hand and give it another good mix. And then we are going to shape these into 1.5 to 2 inch meatballs. I really recommend using a scoop this day. I don't know, I was just feeling doing it by eye. I will link mine down below, but I've been making meatballs for so long I can just kind of guesstimate. So if you're not sure, I would recommend using a measured scoop. But we're going to place these on a sheet pan, and once the 20 minutes is up for the potatoes, we're leaving those in the oven, and we're just putting the meatballs in for an additional 25 minutes. Now this day I actually added asparagus to my pan with a little bit of oil, salt, and pepper, and just roasted that along with the meatballs. You could also serve a nice Greek salad with this. That's also really, really tasty. And last but certainly not least, we are doing my sheet pan steak fajitas. So I have 1 pound of sirloin steak here. You could also use flank, sliced into 1/2-inch strips, as well as 1 large onion, thinly sliced, and 2 bell peppers, thinly sliced. And they're just arranged on the pan with the steak in the center and then the peppers and onions on either side. So to all of this, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then I kind of created my own seasoning here. You could just get a taco seasoning or fajita seasoning packet. But for my spice blend, I did 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, a half a teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a half a tablespoon of salt, and that's it. So then we're just going to gently stir these around, and we are going to bake it at 400 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes, or until the steak is cooked to your liking and the veggies are soft. We cooked ours, I would say, for 15 minutes, just to make it a little more well done for my son, but you would be amazed at how tender it is even at a well done steak. So now to the pan, I am adding a lime that I cut into wedges. I also like to just serve this at the table so you can kind of make your own fajitas. And I'm also sprinkling some cilantro on there. And then I have some warmed up flour tortillas here. You could also use corn. And there you have it, my top 5 summer sheet pan dinners. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it. These are meals that I genuinely go to all the time. We've been making them for years. And I certainly know how hectic weeknights can get, so there's really nothing better than a super quick and easy meal. If you did enjoy this style of video, please be sure to leave me a comment down below and let me know, because I would really like to make more like it in the future. I really appreciate all of the likes, comments, and new subscribers around here. Thank you so much. It really means the world to me. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye! Hey Hey guys, today we are making my baked chicken cordon bleu. We're making a healthy twist on the classic dish by baking it, but don't be fooled, this is still just as crispy and crunchy as the fried version. Stuffed with ham and gooey, melty Swiss cheese and topped with a creamy mustard sauce, this is sure to be a hit. And it is quick and easy enough to be a weeknight dinner, so let's go get started. So first we are going to work on our breadcrumbs. This is how we get the chicken really crispy. So in my bowl here, I am combining 1 cup of panko with 1/2 teaspoon of vegetable oil. And my oven is preheated at 350 degrees, and we just want to spread the breadcrumbs onto a pan and toast them for about 3 minutes. That just gets them started on that golden toasty process. So then while that is toasting, I'm going to work on my chicken here. So I have 2 large chicken breasts. You can easily double or even triple this recipe. And I am just cutting a slit into the side of the chicken. You don't want to cut it all the way in half, but just kind of hinge it a little bit and make a pocket. And that's where we are going to stuff 1 to 2 slices of Swiss cheese and 1 to 2 slices of ham. And then I'm just taking toothpicks and sealing it shut so that all that goodness stays inside. And I will say, remember how many toothpicks you put in each one because they will disappear on you, and there's nothing worse than having someone bite into a toothpick. So then in a bowl, I have 2 teaspoons of flour mixed with 1 egg, and then I have my breadcrumbs on the other plate here. And I just want to add some salt and pepper to the breadcrumbs. So we are going to roll those chicken breasts in the egg mixture and then the breadcrumbs, place them on the sheet pan, and bake for 25 to 30 minutes or until the chicken reaches an internal temperature of 165 degrees. So while that cooks, we're going to make our easy mustard cream sauce. So I have 2 tablespoons of butter in my saucepan that I melted, and then I'm whisking in 2 tablespoons of flour. And then we're going to pour in 1 cup of milk and give that a good stir, as well as 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard and 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. And we just want to cook that until it's nice and slightly thickened, and then serve it with our chicken. And there you have it, my super easy baked chicken cordon bleu. This is a classic dish, and I love taking a bit of a healthier spin on it. It's really family friendly, and as I said, super quick and easy to do for a weeknight dinner. I really hope you enjoyed coming along with me and making this dish. If you give it a try, please be sure to leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And thank you so much for watching until the end. We will see you in the next one. Bye! Hey guys, today's recipe is a quick one, but a staple in my house. My quick and easy baked fish sticks. Not only are they loved by my toddler, but I've been making these for myself and my husband for years now. They are much healthier than the fried versions out there, but do not lack in flavor or crunch. I make big batches and pop them in my freezer for an even faster lunch or dinner. So let's go get started. So in a bowl, I have 2 large eggs that I whisk together, and I'm adding 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard to that. Then I also have 1 cup of flour on a separate plate. And then on another plate, I am adding 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs and 1 cup of regular breadcrumbs. You could do seasoned or plain. And I like to add some garlic powder, some parsley, and salt and pepper. And while I have the salt and pepper out, I am also going to put that on the cod fillets. So I have 1 pound of frozen cod that I thawed out, and I cut it into 1-inch strips. So what we are going to do is dredge the strips in the flour first, then the egg mixture, and then the breadcrumbs. Now I have a wire rack on a sheet pan that I sprayed with nonstick cooking spray, and I'm just putting the fish on the greased rack. And then when that is all done, I'm going to spray the tops of the fish with more of the cooking spray. And that's just going to really help all of the air hit the bottom and make them really nice and crispy on all sides. And the cooking spray helps give them their color. And then I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are going to bake them for about 6 to 7 minutes, flip them, and then cook them for another 6 minutes. And we like to serve them with lemon, tartar sauce, or even ketchup. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me and making my crispy baked fish sticks. I know it was a quick one today, but it was a recipe that I just really needed to share. As always, thank you for watching to the end, and we will see you in the next one. Bye! Alright everyone, we have a super quick recipe today, but an essential one to have in your arsenal. These are the juiciest, tender oven-baked meatballs that we always have in the freezer for quick meals. Over the years, we've tweaked this recipe a cross between my husband's and mine, and now they are just how we like them. I always think of Adam Sandler in The Wedding Singer. Anytime we take our first bite of these, we say, "Oh, that's a good meatball," so let's go get started. So in a large bowl, I have 1 pound of ground beef. And to that I am adding about 1/2 teaspoon each of salt and pepper. And then I'm also adding in some garlic powder, basil, oregano, and some fresh parsley and 2 cloves of garlic that I diced up. I like to add in 1/2 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. I think it just really complements the beefy flavor in the meatballs. And then I'm adding in 1 egg and 1/3 a cup of milk. The milk adds a nice richness to the meatballs, but it also adds a lot of moisture, which is what keeps these really juicy and tender. And then I'm also adding in 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and about 1/2 cup to 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs. Now we just want to stir this together very gently. The more you stir it, it's overworking the meat, and then your meatballs will be more dense and tough. So what I like to do is just kind of lightly mix things together with a spatula to start, and then I get in with my hands and almost make like a claw with my hands, so I'm not really squeezing, and just very gently rake it to combine. And then to roll them here, I would recommend, if you aren't familiar with doing this, getting a scoop so that all of the meatballs are the same size. But what you want to do is cup both of your hands together and roll the meatball very gently. And again, that's preventing us from overworking the meat, but it's going to help the meatballs really stick together so that they don't fall apart while they're baking. So then I'm just placing them on a parchment-lined baking sheet. And the parchment is nice because it helps kind of soak up some of the grease as the meatballs cook. And we are just going to bake them at 375 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on the size. If you make them really small, like mini meatballs, they only need about 15 minutes. I really hope you enjoyed coming along and making these super quick baked meatballs with me. I just really wanted to share it with all of you because there are a lot of recipes I'm going to be making coming into the holiday season that use these. They're super versatile. It's not just for Italian pasta sauce. You could do Swedish meatballs, jelly meatballs. We've got all kinds of great stuff coming up, including my slow cookers part 2. So thank you so much for watching to the end as always, and we will see you in the next one. Bye. Hey everyone, today we are making 5 more summer sheet pan dinners. All of these dinners are cooked on one pan, which means easy dinner with even easier cleanup. We will be making sheet pan salchipapas, bruschetta chicken, paella, cashew chicken, and mini meatloaves. We've got a lot to cover, so let's go get started. So let's start out with the sheet pan salchipapas. Now this is, I believe, it originated as a Peruvian street food dish. I actually learned how to make this from my coworker at the restaurant that I worked at. He always made it in the back as a little snack for everybody. But basically what it is French fries and hot dogs cut up and served with ketchup, mustard, and an ají amarillo sauce, which is like a little bit of a spicy pepper kind of sauce, and it is so good. So I was really craving this the other day and decided to just try and make it on a sheet pan. So what I'm doing is cutting up 2 large russet potatoes into 1/4-inch fries, and we're just going to soak those in a bowl of water for about 30 minutes. So then we are just going to drain them and pat them dry, and then add on 2 tablespoons of olive oil and some salt and pepper. And I have my oven preheated to 425 degrees, and my sheet pan is lined with parchment paper, and we're just going to spread the fries out onto the pan. You don't want to overcrowd the fries or they won't get as crispy. So we just want to roast those for about 25 minutes, flipping halfway in between. And now this is optional, but I also wanted to serve corn on the cob with this. So I have 3 ears of corn, and I'm just putting some pats of butter in some tin foil, along with some salt and pepper, and we're just gonna roast these along with the fries in the oven for those 25 minutes. And now let's make the ají amarillo sauce, and I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that, but I have a half a cup of mayo and a 1/4 cup of sour cream, and then this is the amarillo paste. It's a spicy pepper sauce, and we just want about 2 tablespoons of that. And you can find this in the international section of your grocery store or even online on Amazon or places like that. Then we're also adding 1 tablespoon of ketchup, 1 tablespoon of lime juice, and some salt and pepper. And we're just going to set that aside until we are ready to serve. So now I have 6 all-beef hot dogs, and we just want to cut these into coins, about a 1/4 inch thick. And we're just going to put those on the sheet pan with the fries and roast for an additional 15 minutes. You see how nice and crispy those fries are getting already? So good. Baked French fries can absolutely be delicious and crispy. And if you've had salchipapas before, definitely let me know down in the comments a little bit more on the history of it. I do believe that it is used as a street food in a lot of other countries, but I believe it started in Peru. I never really learned much from my coworker about it, but all I know is it is delicious. Okay, so then to serve, we just want to place the fries on a plate, top with the hot dogs, and then drizzle on our sauce, along with ketchup and mustard if desired. This is like the ultimate street food. I get why it is so loved and so addicting, but it really has those summery vibes of grilling and having a cookout with the hot dogs and French fries, and I figured it would just be perfect for summertime. This is definitely getting entered into our rotation. My husband and toddler both loved this. Okay, so now moving on to my sheet pan bruschetta chicken. So I have 2 large chicken breasts here that I'm just filleting down the middle to make 4 thin cutlets. And then I'm just going to place them on my parchment lined sheet pan, drizzle them with olive oil, and season with salt and pepper, Italian seasoning, and garlic powder. I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and we just want to bake them for about 10 minutes. And meanwhile, we are going to make our bruschetta salad for the top. So I have 12 ounces of cherry tomatoes cut in quarters, and to that I am adding in a 1/4 cup of fresh basil minced, 2 large garlic cloves, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 1 teaspoon of balsamic, along with some salt and pepper. And we just want to give that a good stir and keep that in the fridge until we're ready to serve. And then I also have 8 ounces of fresh mozzarella that I'm just cutting into 4 thick pieces. So once the chicken is cooked for 10 minutes, we're going to take it out of the oven and place a block of cheese on each chicken breast, as well as a bunch of asparagus that I trimmed, and we're just going to drizzle olive oil on the asparagus, along with 1 teaspoon of balsamic, and some more Italian seasoning, salt, and pepper. We're just going to bake this for an additional 8 to 10 minutes, or until the cheese is slightly melted and the chicken is cooked through. And then we are just going to top the chicken with the bruschetta salad. So you get that pop of the nice fresh cold tomatoes on the warm chicken and melty cheese. It is just so good. So let's move on to my sheet pan paella. So I have my sheet pan lined with parchment paper, and to that I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of olive oil, a half an onion chopped, a half a bell pepper chopped, 3 cloves of garlic minced, the zest of 1 lemon, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, and a pinch of saffron. Now, I know saffron is expensive, but I actually found this little package at the grocery store for $4, and a little goes a long way. So I have my oven preheated at 400 degrees, and we're just going to roast this for about 5 minutes. So then I'm going to add on some chorizo, or in this case I used some andouille cut into rounds, as well as a pound of large raw shrimp with the tails on but peeled and deveined. I have 3 cups of cooked rice that I am going to add into the center of the sheet pan here, along with 1 cup of frozen peas. We just want to cook that for about 8 to 10 minutes to get the rice nice and crispy. Now, if you do want to cook everything on one pan, including the rice, you can use 3 cups of minute rice, raw, right in the center of the pan, and 3 cups of chicken broth on top of the rice, and it'll cook up the same way as this 3 cups of rice. But I just wanted to use up what I already had in the pantry. You could also use the microwavable packets of rice. So then we just want to stir that all together to get all of the spices incorporated into the rice. And we're going to serve with some fresh parsley and lemon slices. I love making this sheet pan paella. Paella is one of my favorite dishes, and it can be really time consuming. So this is a great way to have it done all on one pan, super quick and easy. Okay, so now moving on to the sheet pan cashew chicken. I am making my sauce here with 1/3 cup of soy sauce, 3 tablespoons of honey, 2 tablespoons of vinegar, 2 tablespoons of sesame oil, 2 cloves of garlic minced, 2 teaspoons of grated ginger or ginger paste. And we just want to give that a good stir. So now I have 2 large bell peppers cut into 1-inch pieces and 1 red onion cut into 1-inch pieces. And I'm just going to pour half of the sauce on the peppers and onions. And my oven is preheated to 425 degrees. And I'm just going to place the peppers and onions on my parchment lined baking sheet and roast for 15 minutes. And then I'm going to pour the rest of the sauce onto 2 large chicken breasts that I cut into 1-inch cubes, and we're going to let that marinate while the vegetables roast. So once that 15 minutes is up, we're going to add our chicken and 1 cup of cashews. And we're going to roast that for an additional 12 to 15 minutes. And then just toss everything together, and I like to serve it with some sesame seeds on top, some chives, and some rice on the side. And last but certainly not least is my sheet pan barbecue mini meatloaves. So I have 1 pound of ground beef, and to that I'm adding in 1 egg, a half a cup of breadcrumbs, a half an onion grated, 1 teaspoon of parsley, a 1/4 cup of barbecue sauce, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and some salt and pepper. We just want to mix that together and form 4 small meatloaves. But we're going to set that aside and start on our potatoes. So I have 1 pound of baby potatoes cut in quarters, and I'm going to toss those in 1 tablespoon of oil and some salt and pepper. My oven is preheated to 400 degrees, and I lined my sheet pan with foil. You could also use parchment. And we're going to roast the potatoes for 20 minutes. And then I have a half a pound of green beans that I am also going to add to the same bowl that the potatoes were in. Save a dish there with another tablespoon of oil and salt and pepper. So once the 20 minutes is up on those potatoes, we are going to scooch them over to one side of the pan and put the green beans on the other side, and then put our 4 mini meatloaves in the center. We just want to bake that for another 20 to 25 minutes, or until the meatloaves reach 165 degrees. And then we're going to brush them with barbecue sauce. And I have some crumbled bacon that I also added to the top, but that is optional. And you just want to let the meatloaves rest for about 10 minutes before serving. And I have to say, guys, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you may know that my toddler does not like ground beef. We won with these. He actually loved them. He ate a whole meatloaf, and it was such a huge win. If you have picky eaters in your family, young or old, you know the struggle. This is one of those things that he won't eat, and he eats everything else pretty much. So it's always been strange, but yes, he loved these, and they were perfect. So they're definitely going to be added into our rotation this summer as well. I really hope you enjoyed coming along with me and making 5 more summer sheet pan dinners. I will link below my videos for my other sheet pan dinners. As I said earlier, I love this kind of dinner. Super easy cleanup, and they're all full of summer flavors and very family friendly. If you give any of them a try, please be sure to leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think. And thank you so much for watching until the end. We will see you in the next one. Bye.